Hello and welcome back to another episode of the 10-8 Fightcast. Trevor and Dylan here. We're going to be talking about the UFC and the return of Jon Jones, etc., 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 and probably previewing this weekend's upcoming UFC card as well, even though it's really like top heavy with Merab and Jan fighting. But nonetheless, great past weekend of fights. Commentated Toro Cup during the day, and then we had a fucking amazing get together at home.
Oh yeah, it was a great vibe.
Yeah,
I enjoy kind of just like walk around. I was like, I'm just hanging out with everyone I've known from the past like 10 years. And
yeah, shout out to Max Doran, the master chef.
Yeah, he's opened up a home slice tavern in
Anger?
Youngsville.
That's what it was.
Yeah. He's got like. So he'll have a pizza truck soon, and but he brought out like the wok grill, like did some killer tacos, and then packed it up like when the pay-per-view came on, and he was in there hanging out.
Awesome times, lots of cool people like you mentioned from like across the generations of like martial arts in North Carolina, and we had a good time watching the fights, and there were some damn good fights on. So we're gonna start at the main event and work our way down. Jon Jones versus Ciryl Gane. Over before it really got started, frankly.
Yeah.
And Jon just looked too good to be true.
And it was one of those things where it was like, there were a lot of like striking students in there, so everyone's like, oh, a 2-minute submission. And I'm like, it'd be that way sometimes. It's also like, this definitely had like Mike Tyson late 80s vibes going into it, like where it's like paying for a pay-per-view for 30 seconds of action.
Yeah, that is true. And here comes Chance. What are you doing, Chance?
What you doing, bud? You know, you're
She's about to make her first appearance on the 10-8 Podcast.
Oh, well.
The legendary
She was
Chance,
asleep.
the founder of Chance Muay Thai.
Yeah, this is the original. Okay, hey sausage.
I thought that Jones... I said on the show last week that if Jones utilized the grappling and actually took it to that realm effectively, that the fight would be very easy for him.
Oh, very.
And boy, was it ever. I mean, he pretty much just... The first strike Gane through was a low blow. That's, tough. And it kind of set the tone.
Yeah.
Where Gane's, showed that Gane wasn't quite... For someone who's had so much striking experience to come out and throw your first strike and it be a low blow, it's a little bit of a ominous kind of...
He was very timid to throw it.
That too, yeah. And then pretty much the first strike that Gane threw from up top, Jon slips, comes inside on the body lock, and it's not even like he mat returned him. It's literally like he bullied him down.
He literally did.
He literally just
bullied him.
Bowled him over, face planted him. And, I'm really curious how much Henry Cejudo impacted Jon's preparation for this fight in terms of getting the grappling where he needed to be, because, that is just the first time I've seen Jon with any kind of urgency in the past, 10 years.
Yeah, there's that sense of urgency when he first came to the UFC, and we've seen like a different cadence develop in like the being ready to fight for 5 rounds. Where this was I'm getting paid by the longer it goes on, the less I'm getting paid.
Right.
How he came out fighting.
Exactly.
I think he knew he had to put a statement on it, and he also was like, I can't play a game.
Yeah, he respected Gane's size, power, skill set.
Exactly, was he technically threatened? No. He just knew, your boy can't play right now. So he's I think, that's what he had to do. If he came out and he had a rough fight with Ciryl Gane, we'd be like, what, Stipe's going to maul him. Now we're just we're back to...
I don't see a lot of answers from 40-year-old Stipe. I mean, he's pretty much got to knock Jon out, and he's got to do it quick.
Yeah.
But that is all but done, they say. They say that is all but done.
But this still is I think this is going to have that same, want to watch it, Everyone's excited to see Jon Jones come back, especially
Jon
heavyweight.
is the biggest star they have.
And Talia, I had to show her some Jon Jones highlights. She's like, oh, I've never seen him fight before. And I'm like, holy fuck, you've never seen this monster fight before?
He's been gone 3 years. She's only been a fan for 3 years, 4 years.
Yeah.
So it's probably for the best that she didn't see his more recent fights and she just watched the highlights.
Yeah.
Because that would actually make you more excited to see him
it was
fight.
like a vintage Jon Jones.
And that was what I saw. I mean, I think that Jon Jones of old may have tried to elbow Ciryl on the ground, taking it an extra mile as far as the violence goes. But I loved the urgency and I loved the technique is really underutilized. A lot of Dagestani. I made a joke on Facebook after that was like, "Congrats, John Abib, Jones Agomedov," because that is a technique that the Dagestanis use where they just kind of like get you against the cage and they just lean on. They're not necessarily trying to finish that guillotine wrap. They're just kind of like leaning on your fucking neck and head and your back, making every movement,
just making you carry them,
and not just only that, but making every single answer to you being there like as laborious as possible for them. Like if John's got his wrap here and Gane like thinks he can cage walk back up, it's gonna be so much harder to do that when John's got that head on. Okay. Oh, she's back. But I think that, the guillotine shows that, like, the wrestling and the jiu-jitsu are just on another level, and they're mixing. Like, once again, as far as mixing the martial arts goes, it's hard to get better than Jon.
Ciryl looked like he was from, like, a different era in there. It looked like one of the one-style fighters in an MMA fight.
And he is that, but you can get all the way to the world championship being a one-style fighter. Jon said, I think Cyryl's the least well-rounded heavyweight in the top 5. And I was like, what about Tai Tuivasa? Tai Tuivasa has shown us less on the ground than Ciryl has. We don't know anything about his ground game, and he's not...
It seems like he doesn't really have one.
He's not exactly the most well-rounded stand-up fighter either.
No.
So, there's not a lot of excitement for me for matchups for Jon.
Right.
As far as, like, competitive matchups, but... Maybe we're entering the second era of Jon Jones domination tour.
But it's kind of just like he's like, well, this is just a list of guys I haven't beat up yet.
It's true.
And, so it makes it definitely, I think, lays the course for Jones to Stipe and Jones and Polar Bear. Spivak.
Yeah,
okay.
Definitely.
Yeah. I think, this definitely leaves at least good room for those two fights. I think from what we've seen, like Spivak, they'll have him fight Ciryl Gane next?
Spivak will likely fight.
Is he booked for anybody yet?
Not yet. He was the backup fighter, I heard, for this fight.
One, yeah.
But they also said Ty was the backup fighter for this fight.
Interesting.
So the UFC doesn't come out and say who the backup fighter is, so it's like mostly speculation, I guess. But Spivak was there and Ty was there, and people say what they will. I think that if for any reason Gane had fallen out, they probably would have gone with Ty over Spivak.
Oh, 100%.
They don't seem very excited about Spivak, and he is definitely like the Drago right now of the heavyweight division.
He's
where
looking
it's just
like that fight does. I think we talked about that. Where we're more interested in that matchup than
that's the most competitive matchup probably. Yeah. And once again, I think that Jon's grappling will just be too good to deal with for him. He will be better in that department than Stipe or Gane. Mm-hmm. But if Jon is going to have this kind of mash on the gas, get the wrestling going early pace, I think it's going to be very hard for anyone to keep up with him at that weight class. Yeah. Valentina Shevchenko loses her flyweight title in the 4th round against Alexa Grasso.
The spinning back kick.
Spinning back kick. Yeah, once again, as soon as it happened, you were like, oh, it's Chris Weidman Rockhold all over again.
All over again, yeah.
Except that Alexa jumped straight to that choke, whereas like Luke Rockhold was like, oh, it's beatdown city time.
Yeah, he beat the shit out of Chris Weidman. But man, that's the only way to beat Valentina is just like, surprise, motherfucker. That's it.
I was listening to, Jack Slack is a famous hater of Valentina. So, I was very anxiously awaiting the episode upload of his podcast where he talked about her losing. And he was just like, well, if you watch her in fights where she's been made uncomfortable before, that's what happens. She gets pushed to the cage wall, and then all she has is Superman punch to get back to the center, or she'll spinning back kick, which you're not supposed to do when your back is against the wall. So Alexa Grasso and their team had a really good game plan. They uploaded a video of her
really cool to see,
drilling it out. Like that was. I always love those types of training footage mashed up with the real fight footage. My favorite of all time is definitely Conor Aldo, just because it looks 1-to-1 of what happens. This was pretty close.
Very close.
Alexa's training partner looked harder to choke than Valentina did in the moment, but Valentina was in the 4th round of a very high-paced fight.
Very high-paced
for
fight.
her, a high-paced fight for sure. And I think that is definitely where Grasso shined the most. Like, she definitely hit Valentina hard a couple times and even rocked her once before that, but she was losing a majority of the fight before she got the submission. Mm-hmm. But what she did differently than most people is she brought the pace.
Yes.
She brought the pace to Val and made her step backwards, which nobody really has been able to do. A lot of people have been letting her dictate all the striking.
First time she's looked like uncomfortable
moving backwards. Since she fought Amanda.
Yes. Yeah.
Since she fought Amanda, I'll say.
With Amanda, she was like, oh my god, this woman just will not. Like, it was like shots were bouncing off of her.
And I think Grasso fought better than Amanda did in the exchanges.
It was a much calmer pace, or much calmer pressure, where like Amanda definitely like crashes, where this weekend we just saw it was just that steady building of a wall, like slowly pushing you to the cage, and I'm going to force you to do something. Like there wasn't like a bigger fighter just running in trying to body lock her to the cage. Yeah. This was building a wall where it's like, I'm going to force you to throw that spinning back kick to get the fuck out of here.
I mean, you try to step this way, you try to step that way, I'm going to
and she kept it there.
Yeah,
and she controlled that
box. Yep. Yeah, definitely. A great performance with a lot of tenacity from Grasso. And I'm super excited about the rematch. You know they're going to do the rematch next. Valentina had like 7 title defenses before this, so nobody really in the UFC right now is more deserving of a rematch. A lot of people online are like, you know...
Let someone else do it.
Yeah. But in that division, which is kind of built around the idea of Valentina being champion, you kind of got to let her have that rematch. You gotta kind of let her have that chance. And maybe we're looking at a new, Moreno, Figgy type trilogy.
Could be. I think like that's also one of the only things I can do.
Because I'd love to see Valentina come out for a fight with some urgency.
Yes.
She never really...
She'll want to get that belt back.
Yeah, like she never really fights like she's anxious to finish the fight. She always fights like she's trying to execute a game plan more so than like, I'm at war, and I'd like to see her go to war and think for things to be a little personal for her for a change, So that'll be interesting. There was an absolute banger of a fight on this card between Jeff Neal and Shavkat Rakhmonov.
Shavkat, what a motherfucker! Like, and we started to talk about it, like, because Lydia was sitting there with us, going like, "What the fuck? Like, this is awful." But I was like, "Here's that horrible thing about striking sports, like." Knowing that you can take these shots and it's gonna pay off.
I don't know how Shavkat was taking
that, but like because like Jeff Neal like hit him hard as shit, and like he was hitting him hard as shit the whole time. And Shavkat never sat still on any of those strikes. Like, was he getting hit clean? Yes, but he wasn't getting caught unloading. He was always getting hit after something.
Kind of on the way in too.
On the way in, and like he's taking little pieces of that power off, but still getting hit by a very powerful puncher. So that just shows that Romanov is just a absolute fucking unit.
I did not expect much from Jeff Neal in this fight. He really did extremely well.
Like forced it into a fight where Shavkat has really had to go, man, I'm gonna have to dig in, and like to see him get taken out of the wrestling control of it, I was like, oh my god, this is great.
Right,
and and Jeff Neal didn't do anything spectacular.
It definitely had Burns versus Hamzat vibes.
It really did, and it just showed a very simple, like just always being a little offline from Jeff Neal behind his strikes. He was finding simple underhooks and crossfaces, and it showed, picking him back up, breaking on the strike.
It showed that Jeff is still improving.
Still getting better.
Still getting better. Very, very weird division right now, but both of those guys, I feel like their stock went way up. Amazing, like standing
short choke,
palm to palm finish from Shavkat. I'm
that definitely had like the whole room, like as like the fight was going on, the whole room started to go, oh, what the fuck? Like even the jiu-jitsu guys were all like, oh, this is insane. Like,
I fucking love that fight, and they were doing. It's not like the Brunson Duplessis fight where they were both just fucking tired and winging it. They were beat up, tired, and still doing super technical shit.
And that's what was great about it. Yeah. And I tell people like you hear me say this to fighters, like you don't get tired, you just get technical. Like fuck man, like it sucks. Like God, dude, going into the third round of anything is not like a fun experience. Like, can you be ready for it? Yeah, and your technique has you ready for it. I mean, your conditioning, your headspace, but like, dude, the more technique you can carry throughout a fight, like the easier those long fights will get. Yeah, they still hard, but like you're not and like you're taking yourself out of dangerous spots. Like you're navigating around that little dangerous spot. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that fight could be studied in the annals of history.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was telling like some of the newer kids, I was like, watch this fight on like MMA Takedown Defense 101.
What works when you're beat up? What works when you're tired? These are the things that you should be putting a lot of effort into. You know.
Well, you'll see like it's frames.
Yeah.
Knowing how to frame, not just like muscling your way out of positions and stuff like.
And
that.
not just on the ground either.
No, like on the feet, like on the clinch, on the wall, like when you know how to like just sit your body behind two forearms.
As far as like stand up clinch fighting goes, this was a clinic.
It was a great fight. Yeah.
Great fight. Mateus Gamrot versus Jalen Turner, kind of a stinker, honestly. I thought that Jalen Turner did enough to win.
The damage-wise, right?
I thought he just did enough to win.
Mateus got like some takedowns. Jalen was getting back up. Jalen got damaged, but I think Mateus also kept up more forward pressure, maybe possibly.
He just has like.
But he got clipped a bunch.
I think that Beneil has kind of shown us that Mateus has kind of like a limited tool set. Like his tool set is coming in behind 3 or 4 strikes and then going for a takedown.
Very repetitive.
Yeah. Exactly. And when you do a repetitive strategy, sometimes in the eyes of the judges, you can fail 4 times and succeed once, and they count it as a big win. Mm-hmm. But I just thought that Jalen was more voluminous and did more damage in the first. I think like 2 rounds. I think I gave the first 2 rounds to him. I have to go back and watch it again, but I believe I had a 2-1 going, or 2-0 going into the third, and I did not see a 10-8 by any means for Mateus in the third, but I thought he won it. So, yeah, I was pretty disappointed in the result. I think that Jalen Turner is definitely a future contender.
That one I definitely need to go back and rewatch. I think that's when I was done making rounds, I think, at the gym. I was pretty glued down to the ground.
Those are the 3 fights that you want to watch.
Those are the fights where I was like, as soon as these come on, I'm just going to sit the fuck right there with my cooler.
And then there was Bo Nichols' UFC debut against Jamie Pickett.
Yeah, that was tough to watch.
Lots of hubbub about this one.
People from Jamie's camp are claiming there was an illegal knee. It looked like it was to the bladder.
Oh, it was definitely to the nuts. I've seen the replay so many fucking times now because people won't stop talking about it online. I've seen it in slow-mo. I've seen it frame by frame. I've seen it on every possible level you can see a replay on Reddit. Thanks to our MMA Reddit for having all those angles available and everything. But yeah, flush to the balls.
Yeah.
Flush. Right center mass. And, for them to be talking about it and for Bo to be like, I'm not a cheater. It's like, whoa, I know you're used to wrestling, but that's not how this works in MMA. In MMA, people make fouls all the time without intentionally fouling people, Yeah. They're just saying that there was a foul that happened. They're not calling you a cheater. Now, Lamont and Jamie mysteriously pulled their complaint and pulled their appeal yesterday morning to not much fanfare online.
Yeah.
Just subtracted it and are going to move on. So I'm hoping that Jamie has been greased sufficiently by the UFC because, he took a hard fucking shot to the balls and it definitely changed the fight. Now, there's a lot of discussion online about whether or not Bo was always going to win, and it's just like Jack Slacker made a great point about this again, where he was like, "Why even have the fights? Why even have the fights if we're just gonna assume that the guy who was going to win was always going to win?"
Right.
Going into the 5th round of Usman versus Edwards, you could have just assumed that Usman was going to clean up and drove home. Mm-hmm. But that's why we have the fights. It's because anything can happen in MMA, right? So I thought that Pickett's initial defense was good, and then his legs came together, and your legs only randomly come together when someone's trying to take you down if they collect their hands and lock them, or if you get kneed in the balls, and you're wincing. If Jamie didn't get hit in the balls there, he's the greatest actor of all time. He needs to stop fighting in MMA and start auditioning for the MCU because he was very convincing, and I find Bo to be very talented. Not a good look that it takes you 3.5 minutes to finish an arm triangle. Yeah. But he's being very insufferable in the post fight stuff. He's really dwelling heavily on the knee being to the inner thigh, and it's like, well, you don't really need people to the inner thigh. That's just not a strategy. That's not a valid strategy in MMA, right? You need them to the body.
It's more of a distraction. Like,
exactly.
Like, you're not going to get a whole lot of damage.
Now, what you can do is you can knee somebody to, like, the inner knee line right here, and it'll potentially unbase them. It'll take their weight off of their knee, and then you can claw their legs up. But way up here, near the guys, it's not really something that people do because they don't want to accidentally foul someone and lose the position. And I thought that he fouled someone and should have lost the position, but no nonsense. Keith Peterson was feeling more like some nonsense.
Nonsense.
All that is to say that I thought the main card was very good.
Yeah.
It was one of the most exciting and best main cards the UFC's had all year.
It was nice to see all that, like, build up and attention, I guess, after, like, the Islam and Volk card got, like, no attention in press. And, a lot of people were...
Well, you see, they believe in Jon.
Yes.
They clearly believe in Jon.
Well, it just goes to show, like, how many people, like, know, like, this guy has been a champion for this long amount of time. Yeah. Like, he was a champion before you started even really getting into MMA.
For years before I got into MMA.
Yeah.
I think he won the belt in 2011, 2010.
Sounds about right, yeah.
I mean, he's 35, so it was about 2012. Because he won the belt at 24, right? Or 23?
23,
23, yeah. 23. So it was about 2010, 2011 that he won the belt. And, you know, I've forgotten all about this, but that story about him, the day of the Rampage fight, stopping a mugger.
A mugger.
I mean, stuff like that is just like, obviously there's people who have done it now since then, Kevin Holland, etc. But to do it on the morning of your world title fight, when you're just like, you've just weighed in, and, you know, you're still rehydrating.
And this is what you're going to do.
Exactly. I thought that the promotion was good. I thought that there were definitely a lot of people excited to watch the fight, clearly, because we had a lot of people who wanted to come over to watch it with us.
It was one of those, like, everyone that said they were going to show up, showed up.
Yeah, sometimes when we do these fights, or when we invite people out to watch fights with us, it's like always the same people.
Yeah.
The people that watch every fight, no matter what. Anyway, like us. Mm-hmm. But there were so many people at this gathering because the UFC made it seem like it was going to be an exciting night of fights. And there were also some local guys from around here that people wanted to see. You know, Damon and Jamie, etc. So, and Derek, of course. And we'll get to that fight in just a moment. But Cody Garbrandt versus Trevor Jones. I mean, I'm glad that Cody got a win, but I didn't necessarily like what I saw out there. Mm-hmm. I wasn't crazy about how he was reacting to getting hit when he did get hit. I think that Jones is not a phenomenal fighter by any means. He's 13-10 now.
Yeah. This is, I saw the start of the fight, and then I kind of lost interest in it. Like, I'll be honest. Like, I just thought, I was like, man, like, vintage Cody is gone. Like,
Cody dumped him and laid on him and controlled him and did what he had to do to get the win.
Yeah.
You know, that's all it boiled down to. And, Cody's getting knocked out next fight. And he said this was the beginning of the comeback. It should have been. It should be the beginning of the end.
Yeah.
I saw nothing in this fight that made me think that, like, he's got anything for anybody remotely in the top 15 or top 20 of the division.
Yeah, it's a different game now.
Speaking of the beginning of the end, Derek Brunson versus Dricus du Plessis, a meme-tastic fight. A hilarious fight to observe with your friends. And if you had a few drinks before this fight, it was probably even more fun to watch. But, you know, Derek's one of the scariest guys in the world for about 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Especially when he has to fight at that insano pace. And he was getting really good at dialing it back and reserving his energy.
Yeah,
like that went out the window in this fight.
Yeah.
As soon as he got touched the first time by du Plessis, he had a lot of urgency to get him on the ground. Mm-hmm. And I mean, du Plessis might just have fights like this all the way up to a title shot.
I can see that happening.
Because, I mean, the fight with Till the same way. Mm-hmm. Just a goofy-ass fight. Well, I think they should book him versus Paulo next, because Paulo gets sucked into fights like that, too. Yeah. And it would be very funny if he could just keep beating people in this way of just, like, being slightly less tired.
Slightly less tired, slightly more technical, like, that's it.
I love the fight, though. And,
it was a lot of fun to watch.
At the end of the second round, Brunson's corner throws the towel in because he's literally just laying there and getting blasted, and Herb's not doing shit. And I think it was very refreshing and very cool to see the corner throw the towel in when their guy was in trouble.
Yeah.
That very rarely ever happens in MMA.
And it's kind of one of those sports where, like, you get fucked up. Like, it just happens more. Like, it's a different type of getting fucked up. And
he wasn't shrimping. He wasn't trying to close the distance.
Like, it kind of shows, like, man, that third round was probably going to get really bad.
He just
like, the way that
Driscoll
was starting to come back, and I was like, man,
the fact that there was only a second left on the clock, and they didn't even wait for Derek to get back to the corner to throw the towel in, is really nice. Because if you wait till he gets back to the corner, you're going to ask him, like, hey, what do you think?
I mean,
Derek?
God, like, remember, like, the Weidman, and like we talked about earlier, the Weidman-Luke Rockhold fight? Weidman was never the same after that.
No.
That spinning back takedown,
and
all the damage, and then, they're looking at him in between rounds, and they're just like, he's not even here. Like, you have to wake up, and he's like, where am I? And he goes up for the next round, and it's just, Luke picks right back up where it was before.
Yeah.
Like, it looked like he was attacking someone that wasn't even in a fight, and then... Like, Chris was never the same. And that could have very well happened in this.
Easily happened to Brunson.
Yeah.
Easily happened to Brunson. And, you know, I was thinking to myself during this, like, God, I hope that this is the end. And sure enough, he was like, thank you guys for supporting me throughout my career, etc., etc. And it's not like he didn't look like he couldn't fight in the UFC still.
Yeah.
It's just that, like, he's a top-level guy. And when you're a top-level guy, you don't get the easy matchups to go out on.
No.
And if he was looking for a fight to go out on, this was the wrong one to pick. Dricus is just a little too good and a little too violent, a little too technical on the feet.
Yeah.
And didn't take long to activate Panic Wrestler Brunson. Amanda Ribas picks up the decision against Vivian Aruro. You didn't watch this one, did you?
I don't think so.
Yeah, it was fine. It went about as I predicted on the pre-show. Amanda's just a little too good everywhere. Julian Marquez versus Barra Oltz.
Man, Julian's really good at getting punched in the face.
Yeah, he is, man. I mean, that's a tough one to swallow for sure. I mean, I know the UFC is very high on him.
That was definitely like the fight that he was supposed to win.
Exactly.
And I think it showed that maybe he don't know where he's training at. He was at Glory.
Yeah,
maybe he's back out in Vegas. And he kind of just came out to throw punches and get punched. Like, did it like where Mark, you know, he was the one actually making, like, recognizing which stance was where, stepping outside of engagements, able to cut him off and pull him into punches, and he just, like, Mark just fought a bit smarter.
Much smarter fight,
yeah,
in my opinion.
Much smarter, yeah.
Wasn't there to brawl like
Julian was. Yeah.
But that's why the UFC is kind of high on that guy. Same reason they're high on that Joe Pfeiffer guy. They like guys that go out there with nothing
I can
to
see
lose.
Pfeiffer and Marquez next.
Damn, that would be crazy.
Yeah.
Marquez has been around in the UFC a lot longer than Pfeiffer. Be wild to match him up this early, but Pfeiffer does look significantly better from a technical perspective, of course. Ian Gary had a big finish in the final moments of his fight with Kenyon Song, and
started off a little dicey,
and I don't think I've ever seen an Ian Gary fight where
he doesn't get hit.
Get hit, which is very, very problematic. But he also utilizes the classic tall man defense where he just like stands up straight to avoid punches, and it's just like, I don't like seeing that. I'd rather just see somebody have a defense that doesn't rely on them being tall as fuck, you know? Like, just do a more traditional style of defense. It's not like you're going to get hit harder because you're taller.
No, yeah.
Like, you know. But he needed that finish because the last two fights he's had, he's looked good in, but they haven't been statement finishes. They've been decisions, like dominant decisions. And if you're going to get this guy promoted to the next level or start getting his name spread outside of Ireland, then for sure you got to have finishes like that. So,
yeah.
Cameron Simon, I didn't see this fight. I was driving to the gym.
That's right. He's a whole handful.
Oh yeah, I mean he's big. He's a big prospect out of South Africa.
He was like just kind of the better fighter everywhere in this.
That's what I heard. I heard. Ricci versus Penne.
Tabitha got a great hip toss to immediate armbar. It was a good judo 101.
Yeah, I saw that it was a submission early in the second round. Lots of submissions on this card.
Yeah, we were talking about that beforehand, where there were 4 submissions out of 5 fights on the main card.
Yeah, on the main card. Yeah. Damon's fight. You said that I saw the last 30 seconds of it, where he looked like he was going to finish.
Yes,
it was very reminiscent of the Jim Miller fight earlier. Yeah, I thought that he was going to.
He had a good. I remember like first round. I think great grappling exchanges back and forth.
Yeah, he's a really good grappler.
Their grappling looked really sharp. It looked like Basharat just kind of was putting it together on the feet a bit better.
Yeah.
And he was causing Damon just to like stop and look instead of react.
Damon's with 6 Gun, right?
Yeah, he's out of Jackson Wink. Yeah.
His striking will only continue to get better under 6 Gun. 6 Gun's a good striking coach for sure.
But I think that 6 Gun's time was spent more with like John. Yeah. Like I think that was like kind of like evident.
Well, there was that debate on whether or not John would even return to Albuquerque. You know, whether he would return to that team. But he was working with 6 Gun in his garage for like 2 years. You know.
Yeah. They have the original Jackson Wink like big spot and that's just like a small like private gym for John. Well, not small, but it's a private gym for Jon Jones now essentially.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yes, I think it's. I mean, it's like the boxing approach, right? You make it to a start. When you're an amateur, you're with a team, and then when you get to a certain level, you start tailoring everything to be about you.
Yes.
And I think that's not a bad approach to take if you're on the Jon Jones level. But when you're still developing, you definitely need to be surrounded by people that are better than you, and quite good if they're not better than you. They need to be quite good at the things that they are good at. I don't know how strong that team is overall with who they have, but they have Damon, who's really a good prospect, especially for this part of the country, a very, very good prospect. So we'll see how they continue to develop him, because I'm pretty sure after a fight like that where it was back and forth and competitive, he's not going to have any problems getting another fight in UFC.
No. Yeah.
And then that first fight I also missed. That was while I was still at Toro Cup. The low kick Razbov fight versus Esteban Ribovic.
Good fight. Yeah.
Speaking of guys named Esteban, did you hear? Well, I guess you wouldn't even know who this is, but do you know who Giant Slayer Jiu-Jitsu is?
No.
Esteban Martinez. He trains out of ZR team in Apex. He's like a jiu-jitsu ace who's like 120 pounds and like comes up to here on me. He's making his MMA debut at UBG next month.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He's on his ZR team?
Yeah. He's a monster in jiu-jitsu, dude. Like he is a serious jiu-jitsu guy, and he's one of those guys that like when he takes an MMA fight, you're like, oh,
interesting.
Like you really have no reason.
Wait,
to do
so
this.
is that the one in April?
Yeah.
Oh, neat! I'm gonna be there for that.
Yeah.
Talia's gonna get her tattoo finished on Friday.
It's gonna be a flyweight
and so we're just gonna go hang out and just watch some live fights.
Do you know where they're doing it?
No idea.
Yeah, it's because they've never done one in Wilmington, right? All of them have.
No, they have. They have.
First one was
they've done some like older ones in Wilmington. They did one like outside, and like 3 of the pro fights like get canceled last minute.
Oh.
Yeah, they tried to do it like outside at a. There's this place, Courts and Sports. It's like a big volleyball and like sports bar thing. And it's dope as fuck, and we'd go like watch fights there. But they tried to do it like in the sand pits. Total disaster.
Total disaster. On par with the LP Friends Stadium or worse?
Whew. I mean, this one had to get canceled.
Oh, straight up.
Yeah, like only like a handful of fights happened.
Why? What was the deal?
Rain.
Oh.
Yeah, it started to rain. Yeah, and it was freezing outside.
You can paint a pretty picture, but you can't predict the weather.
Nope.
So this weekend's there's some cool fights going on. You know.
Yeah, this one has like the top 3 are pretty like good matchups.
Victor Henry's on this card, who I love watching. He's fighting our boy Tony Gravely.
Oh, that's right, Tony Gravely.
I think Victor Henry's very entertaining. Very weird looking guy. Looks a lot like Saeed.
That's right. Saeed, yeah.
You know.
Tyson Nam. He's a lot of. I like watching him.
JJ Aldrich.
Wait, Jared Gooden's back in the UFC?
Yeah, and he's opening up the fucking early prelims.
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, I just saw that. JJ Aldrich, Aaron Lipsky, that'll be a fun one.
Yeah, Lipsky's good.
Lipsky's a good test. So Chance is officially joining our broadcast.
Wow. our guest today, Chancers.
This is just Chance Unbound. She is part cat.
She's the only dog that would want to be on the show anyway, really. Bowie and Jolie would not want any part of this.
No, they wouldn't. David Grant, Rafael Asuncao, this will definitely show that, like, Rafael, man, I can't believe he's
Fall
still
from
in
grace.
Yeah.
Fall from grace for sure.
Yeah. Carl Williams is always fun to watch. I mean, so like, there's a fun. It's a fun fight card, man, to have on. I'm excited for it. Then what do we have on the main card?
Nikita Krylov versus Ryan Spann got moved to this main card.
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Saeed Nurmagomedov, the guy who looks like Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
Yes.
Is on here. But it's really all about that main event fight.
Yeah, Peter Yan and Merab. This is a big bantamweight contender. Like, does Peter Yan still have the stuff?
A lot of stakes.
Is Merab the guy?
Ready? Is he ready?
Is he ready?
Yeah.
Is he ready to be? Because I wonder if this is what makes Aljo a band. No, wait, is he fighting Cejudo?
That's what they're targeting, but it's not done.
It's not finalized.
It's
No?
not finalized, but
Okay.
but they both said they want the fight.
I couldn't remember if that was finalized or not. I think that might be, if Merab wins this, then that'll be Aljo's last.
They're never gonna fight.
They're never gonna. They're teammates.
They're
They're best
teammates.
friends. Yeah, and I don't think they'd be able to sell that fight.
He's gonna try to move on. You think?
No,
Aljo,
to 45.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's gonna move on.
Aljo's fucking massive. It's insane to see him at 35.
Yeah, that's the one thing that intrigues me about the Cejudo matchup is that he is
Just so goddamn
big. He's a
so
big boy.
Yeah,
he's a big boy. I would have loved to see Volkanovski versus Cejudo. I think that was
Mm-hmm.
probably a better super fight than
That would
Aljo
be really cool to see.
Cejudo.
Yeah.
Especially now, it would be.
Ooh, Aljo and
Now, Cejudo wins. You have to do him versus Volk.
Yeah. Aljo Volk. That's a fun.
The first ever
match.
quadruple C in the UFC.
Yeah. Could easily be sold.
Yeah, especially after Volk. I mean, dude, I feel like after Volk versus Islam, Volk's stock is so high, they can do whatever they want. Speaking of Volkov, there's the other Volkov,
Yeah.
Alexander Volkov, not Alexander Volkanovski,
Big gangly fuck.
taking on Alexander Romanov. Should be an interesting fight at heavyweight. I think heavyweight's going to be interesting for the next few months, right?
Uh-huh.
Like, people are going to definitely be in position to prove themselves, but...
I'm more interested... Oh, wait, the Nikita Krylov fight and Ryan Spann fight's at a catchweight.
Yeah, I imagine that was because they had to move the fight.
They just don't want to cut weight.
Rehydrated a little bit. Yeah, probably just didn't want to recut weight. Probably a UFC thing, too. The UFC might be involved there.
Probably.
Just be like, we'll make this as easy as possible on you guys.
Yeah.
Because we could really use another fight on this
and
fucking
Nikita Krylov is a former heavyweight.
Yeah,
anyways,
yeah, exactly. Probably hard for him to get down. But Jan versus Merab. I think that, we all know what Merab wants to do. And Jan has a skill set that can allow him to compete on the ground and on the feet.
Yeah.
But if he's going to get it done, if he's going to finish him, it's going to be on the feet. Right?
He has a great check hook that Merab always, if there's one thing Aljo and Merab both do is they will always, they don't have good head movement.
Well, that's why.
Their head is always in line after they strike and so they can shoot a takedown.
Aljo got knocked the fuck out by Marlon Vera with that.
Marlon Moraes.
Marlon
that
Moraes,
head kick,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, Marlon Moraes.
And then when Merab fought also Moraes, he was getting caught with that check hook on the inside.
Luckily, he was fighting the later version of the Magic Man. Yeah.
So this, I think that Peter Yan also has better active takedown defense than a lot of the guys that Merab has fought recently.
But it's about the...
Merab is just really good about putting a person on the cage.
For me, with Yan, it's about the footwork.
Yes.
He will be hard to pin down against that wall.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do step in and try to overextend yourself, that's when that check hook's going to show
exactly, and he's willing, as soon as he breaks, he's going to have that check hook ready to go. He's going to have either the uppercut, the check hook, or maybe a step back to a knee. I could easily see Merab shooting into a knee off the cage. I think this fight is going to be one for Peter Yan in the breaks off the cage wall.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to go with Yan by KO probably in the third,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to say that he gets on the mic and doesn't want the title fight. He wants a rematch with O'Malley.
Mm-hmm. Totally see that.
Because that's a bigger fight for him than
that
fighting
could,
for the title. And also the belt's probably not going to be there for another year and a half.
And that fight could totally co-headline a pay-per-view card.
Oh, easily. Easily.
And then I think he might want some of that pay-per-view money.
Yeah, easily. Especially as a former champion. Because
Yeah.
once you have a championship, you always get a cut of the pay-per-view, even if you're not a champion any longer.
Mm-hmm.
Which is one of the reasons why they wanted so badly to get that fucking belt on Uriah Faber's waist, because he really needed that that extra bonuses and stuff like that. a lot of people have gone for, like, that's one of the reasons why I've not been too harsh on the interim belts, because I found out that if you win an interim championship, you get the same deal.
Oh, cool.
So I was like, oh, okay, well, at least Dustin, no matter what happens from here on out,
he's getting
some extra money every time he appears on a big card, and he's never not going to appear on a big card.
No,
Dustin Poirier's never going to be on another fight night, so it's good for them in the long run. I think that Jan is smart enough to know that the title picture at 35 is going to be very murky and messy until Aljo's gone. Mm-hmm. So just chase the money. Fight O'Malley again. Their first fight was one of the best bantamweight fights of the past 5 years.
Yeah.
And that's saying something, because bantamweight is a division where there's a good fight every time you turn around. There's a phenomenal fight at bantamweight.
These guys just do everything.
Yeah.
They do it well, they do it fast.
Bantamweight,
they look like Dragon Ball Z characters.
Bantamweight, featherweight, lightweight are the three divisions that, in my opinion, can be the most entertaining. Mm-hmm. Especially when you get to 45, 55, because they're powerful enough to finish, but technical enough to go all 5 rounds and look good all 5 rounds. I just think those 3 weight classes are great. And bantamweight especially has only gotten better and better and better as the years have gone on. So, that's it for the UFC. Past 2 weeks. Let's see, is there anything else we want to talk about? Anything significant going on in the world of hometown martial arts? Anything
let's see what's going
on in the world of MMA?
We've got the Next Level Fight Club coming back. To Charlotte.
Next Level Fight Club returns to North Carolina. Going to be going down at the historic, in my opinion, Grady Cole Center. My dad and my mom saw Vanilla Ice live there. I saw my first live local fight night there.
A little Fight Lab show?
Yeah, it was a Fight Lab.
Nice.
No, well, I will say my first local fight night was actually Next Level Fight Club, but I popped my head in for Cody's fight and left. So, first fight card that I ever went and watched, curtain to curtain.
Is that the one that he fought Rosnick at?
I think so.
He guillotined him?
Yeah. Yeah, I was there for that, and then I watched Fight Lab curtain to curtain. And tried to get backstage and couldn't, and then I started working shows after that.
Nice.
So, I think that Fight Lab was pretty much exclusively out of that venue, so it's going to be awesome to see. I think it's a good venue.
It's a fun venue.
I think it's a really nice venue, especially the more space there is for seating and stuff like that, because it has the balcony seating, and it has the seating in the back area, but when I went to go see some boxing fights there was much less crowded shit, tables and shit around the ring, so they were able to fit more people. And I was like, wow, you can actually fit a lot of people in this fucking building. Yeah, it's like a smaller version of the arena, Dorton Arena.
Yes,
the Dorton Arena is huge, right? But if you cut it in half, you probably have the Grady Cole Center, right? It's going to be awesome.
There's UBG coming back in April to Wilmington in June. Going to have talked to Josh and Vic, maybe Troy Swansea just for fun to do some of the semi-MMA matches.
Yeah, semi-MMA, that seems like a good rule set for some of the guys to, dip their feet in the water and see if they want to mix the striking and the grappling without being too risky. You basically got the headgear, you got the shin guards. Can't strike on the fence, can't strike on the ground, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So. Super. I was like, that's perfect to get guys ready for some semi-MMA.
Did you see Jake Gyllenhaal at the UFC?
Yeah, boys
looking crazy.
Woo. Yeah, I was impressed. I was like, God damn, he looks like he's just
let's speculate.
Greek god here.
Let's speculate.
Oh
on
yeah,
the plot
let's
of
see what's going on with
So we're familiar with the original Roadhouse movie, yes?
And there is no trained fight background. He has a Tai Chi yoga background,
right?
And he awkwardly flicks the bag and that's his training, but then proceeds to rip a dude's throat out.
Right.
There's no he's a philosophy student. So I guess these guys will be leaning into either a former contender becomes a bouncer or bouncer becomes contender.
Yeah, I'm thinking that this is
McGregor's the bad guy, and instead of fucking dudes in prison, he's trying to get Jake Gyllenhaal to come fight him in the UFC.
Yeah, is Conor just playing himself?
Is this possibly a remake of Southpaw?
Oh my god. I was thinking Bruised, where how in Bruised in the opening scene,
oh, you mean
she's fighting in the UFC?
Cried? Yes.
She's fighting in the UFC in that first opening scene. She gets her ass beat
and she climbs out the cage.
Leaves the cage in the middle of the fight. and is like shamed basically, right?
Yeah.
So what if he's like a guy who's, you know, in the UFC, does some bad shit, gets kicked out of the UFC, and now has to be a bouncer at this fucking dive bar, and one night Conor McGregor comes in there drinking off his ass
they get
and
into a
recognizes
fight.
him,
Yeah.
you know, and picks a fight with him in the bar.
Probably have a Warrior-esque like fight
Beats his
scene,
ass in
beats
the
his
bar.
ass in the bar,
And then
undefeated in the
And
street.
he's like, if you want to fucking, you know, get this back, you gotta come back to the UFC and face me in the octagon.
Get your honor back.
Jake Gyllenhaal.
McGregor probably fucks his leg.
But like, but there's like, you know, there's the other scenes of them on a boat where they're like swimming, or they're like not swimming together, but
so is it like the white version of Creed 3, but it's like Brokeback Mountain?
I don't know, dude.
Will we see a love scene between Conor McGregor and Jake Gyllenhaal? Like,
I have no idea. I was just like, when they
at this
brought him
point,
out
I
for
think
that
men in
wedding-
society are kind of like, you know what? We need another Brokeback Mountain, and it might be Roadhouse.
Well, we have a whole franchise dedicated to being slightly more masculine, Brokeback Mountain, which is Fast and the Furious. I mean, that's probably the most homoerotic franchise that's allowed to exist.
Well, that's if like for dudes that want to fuck their car. Like that's
No. I think you haven't watched those movies in a while.
I've seen all of them, and I just sit there and watch them. I'm just like, I don't know.
If you watch that second movie,
I feel like this is like an AI generated thing. I think we're being fucked with.
So
like,
as
I see
you,
the trailers for
as
New
you
Fast
go
and Furious,
as you go
like,
further and further deeper into the franchise, it becomes more about the ridiculous action. But
you
go back to the heart of the franchise.
It's a heist. It's about heist.
The first three movies are about men who love each other very much but can't express their feelings. For instance, in the second movie, Tyrese and Paul Walker have a scene where they're driving next to each other and they're just staring at each other longingly, and there's a
and even like the woman in the middle going like, do you guys need to make out right now?
Yeah,
like,
need a minute here, and then like, you know, she's God. And Paul Walker does something, and then Tyrese goes, "Don't forget who taught you that move." You know, and it's just so gay. And then there's the scene at the end of the first movie where Paul Walker is trying to decide if he wants to let Vin Diesel go, and they're like this close to each other's face. I remember watching it with my friends for the first time, and they hadn't seen it, but I grew up on these movies, so I knew exactly. But they were like, "Are they about to kiss?" Like it's shot like they're about to kiss. Yeah. And I think South Park even has an episode where they make fun of this, about how like the scripts are actually like gay porno scripts that they just slightly change to be like real movies, you know. But yeah, I think that
the two curious mechanics.
I think it could be like a warrior type situation, but I was interested to see Conor play like some bad guy, but now I feel like he's just playing Conor McGregor. Like,
rolls up on set doing blow like he's Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Obviously, it's a suspension of disbelief to believe that Jake Gyllenhaal is this fighter in the UFC. They have the UFC commentators be in the movie. They're clearly recreate. The UFC is either involved heavily in the production of this movie, or they're being paid heavily to be a part of the movie.
Well, it's look at who the UFC is owned by.
Ari Emanuel and Endeavor.
So they're just like, hey, the UFC is now part of pop culture, fucking deal with it. And like any fight move's going to come out is going to have something attached to the UFC, just like even in like boxing movies, like they still attach it to like the WBC belts.
I want to see Creed 3 so fucking bad.
Do you? I don't
know anybody who's seen. I don't know anybody who's seen the other two.
Should we see it this weekend?
I would love to see it this weekend.
All right,
yeah,
I guess we're gonna see Creed 2 this weekend. Let me go rewatch. I know I've seen Creed 2. I fell asleep during Creed 1.
I think Creed 1's the better movie.
Is it? Okay,
yeah,
I might watch
Creed
that.
2's good. Creed 2's good.
Yeah, I might watch that by myself. And
I just love Jonathan Majors, the guy who's playing the bad guy in this new one. He's a fucking amazing actor, and he was awesome in the new Ant-Man movie. He's really good in Lovecraft Country, which I think what most people know him for. But yeah, he's just a fucking
Man,
really
I'm so
good
bad
actor.
about watching good TV shows. I just put on like bad sci-fi movies from the 80s.
Yeah, you probably would like Lovecraft Country. It's very like sci-fi heavy, horror heavy. It's like mixing and blending all these various genres. It gets really weird, which I think keeps people plugged in, right? It's like sort of like American Horror Story vibes, but slightly more highbrow, I think. But yeah, I want to see Creed 3 really bad, so let's go see it this weekend. And Michael B. Jordan's first time directing, and I think that like when you talk about directing martial arts movies and why martial arts movies have gone downhill so badly, is because like in the 70s, and especially the early 70s, going into the mid 70s, there was such a fascination with martial arts because they were such a mystery to people.
Yes, they didn't actually know what worked.
Yeah, all these people in Hollywood were training martial arts, which is why we had this like golden age of martial arts cinema, not only from Hong Kong and all the films from abroad, but even the U.S. produced martial arts movies of that time were very well shot because people were training. They understood what they were supposed to be shooting, you know? Now you watch a Marvel movie with a fight scene in it, and it's like they're cutting away every like 5 seconds. There's a lot of shaky cam.
Yeah, they're doing it.
So you don't actually see how bad the technique is, right?
Yeah.
But like the John Wick movies, and then these, you know, hopefully this Creed movie, there's an emphasis more on wide angle, no cut type of fighting scenes where you can actually see the moves that people are doing. There's a lot of legit stuff. Speaking of legit fighting, there is a ton of legit jiu-jitsu in the Fast Saga. Like, I thought... So, in the Fast Saga, to go back to the Fast...
20 years in the future, Dylan McGrath here is a Fast Saga choreographer here. He is...
Well, I feel like I should provide some context,
He's
right?
a specialist.
So, I'm in a group with a group chat with a lot of my friends, and most of them are not really into fighting. You know, some of them are, some of them are not. But my friends that are like outside of fighting are mostly like dorks, and we like to watch movies together. And we usually watch movies.
Like you told me you were watching like Meals on Wheels.
Exactly.
Like
Over the pandemic, we watched over 120 Jackie Chan movies. Whether he was a main character, a background extra, or just like a character that pops in for one line. We watched them all. Pretty much every movie he's ever done. And right now, we're watching the Fast Saga. So, watching them as an adult, I see things, right? In the first movie, Paul Walker uses a hip hop sweep.
He also like
he was a brown belt.
Yeah, he was a brown belt in jiu-jitsu.
So
yeah.
okay, so they have all these fight scenes in these movies, and most of them are just like muscly guys punching each other until it's time for Brian O'Connor to fight somebody, and then he fucking rolls them over, triangle arm bars, fucking rolling Kimuras, like really advanced level shit.
Really cool.
So I was like. Okay, well, why in every movie do they have this guy
that's
doing
Agent
jiu-jitsu?
Coulson in like the Marvel movies? He's a BJJ black belt.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
like he's legit as fuck. Like
yeah, and they didn't use that at all.
Yeah, they should have. That'd be cool.
But yeah, you watch those movies and you see Brian O'Connor / Paul Walker doing jiu-jitsu, and he's doing real shit. So I Googled it, and yeah, he was a brown belt.
Yeah.
He was a brown belt, and he was looking to add a personal touch to the character. And it's just like, damn, dude, that's what happens.
He really, I think, could have like gone in like to some heavy like. It'd have been cool. Like, it's a bummer how he passed away, but I think he was probably about to start leaning into like being a legit like martial artist for cinema. Like, I think Paul Walker could have made a BJJ movie cool as fuck. Like,
probably.
You know, he's probably one of the only guys. Like, imagine like him and Keanu Reeves like choreographing some scenes.
Tom Hardy
too.
Tom Hardy is not quite on that level.
But he's like competing.
Mario
like,
Lopez is very well renowned.
Tom Hardy, Mario Lopez, that would be a hot
good super fight.
That'd be a
who's number one with Tom Hardy?
Yeah, shirtless.
That would be so
fucking
sick.
oiled up.
Fucking juice to the gills.
Yeah. Oh
like,
yeah. Please.
Tom Hardy got the Bane body, like you know.
Mario Lopez hasn't aged.
No, seriously, he still looks like he's ready to go to fifth period.
He just walks around with a singlet sticking out of his khakis still.
I mean, he looked fucking amazing this weekend at the UFC. Like,
he was there. I was like, that's
it's literally like his wife is aging faster than him, and she's like 15 years younger.
Literally, everyone at the fights this weekend that did not know who Mario Lopez was wanted to know who he was. And I was like, yeah.
And let's not even get started on Jake Gyllenhaal's body. Ridiculous, but. You know, I think that we're going to see a very Warrior-esque plot where it's like kind of, you know, a redemption story of a guy who used to be on the top of the world. And, you know, just seeing Bruised in all these movies, like, it's going to be a very safe plot. Mm-hmm. But it should hopefully be a little bit more well done than Bruised, in my opinion.
Bruised was, like, heavy on the sad.
A little too heavy.
The sad. Like, we were... Like, the training scenes were just like... That's
Do you have a favorite martial arts movie before we get out of here?
You know what?
We've been talking
about
movies.
Favorite martial arts movie? I'm trying to think, like... Damn. Like, the Once Upon a Time in China series by Jet Li. Like, when I was a kid, like, those were ones I'd rewatch because...
The One is my favorite.
Oh, we've talked about that.
The One is my favorite Jet Li.
Like, so they're, like, I'm still, like, a sucker when it comes to, like, martial arts movies, like the second Drunken Master movie.
Yep.
like as far as the newer ones that have come out, like Kung Fu Hustle, because I appreciate the flow of like those traditional martial arts scenes. I'm just like, that's very like that. Chance,
don't you jump over that wire, Chance.
She's like, do you see me? I'm not jumping. But no, yeah, like as like I never like the Rocky movies. I was always like, well, that's not real. Like,
yeah, well, the
when I watched like
those movies is not
when I
real.
watched Jet Li when I was younger, it was dope because he made martial arts very violent. I have no idea what you're trying to do, dog. But like, I liked how violent his movies were. Jackie Chan was very cool, very creative. You know, Jet Li, I really liked seeing how violent he made movies. Like Jackie Chan was very like
Cradle to the Grave.
Cradle to the Grave is great. I love Cradle to the Grave. I like Jet Li's wave of like blending like hip hop and like he was big and like there was a couple big like what was the one with Steven Seagal and isn't Ja Rule in it where he like goes into a prison?
Escape from Alcatraz?
They're man. Like like as far as like fight movies, like I think I agree like Trevor Logan probably like Warrior was like the best done.
For MMA
and stuff like that.
Half Past Dead.
Like I thought that was ridiculous, but I liked it.
Fucking Steven Seagal in the do-rag in that movie is so fucking hilarious. Wow, she was very graceful.
I can't believe she did not knock that over.
She just limboed out of here, like no problem.
But yeah, dude, like I really tried to get Talia to like watch some like old martial arts movies, and she's like, I can see why you like these, but I don't like this. I was a sucker for a lot of old. I think like it's not like just one. It's like the entire Once Upon a Time in China series was like I could just watch it all the time when I was a kid.
I mean for me,
Kung Fu Hustle was like the last like I thought like really well done just martial arts movie to like showcase like traditional martial arts. What was yours? I know you said like one, but like they have like traditional like old school ones.
That's my favorite Jet Li movie. I mean, obviously Jackie Chan, my favorite of all time, and my favorite Jackie Chan movie of all time will have to be... I'm going to have to say Wheels on Meals. I mean, I think that's my favorite one. I know it's not the best one, but I love that opening scene where him and Yun Bao are training. Like, they wake up and they immediately start training. And they're wearing the fucking small gloves. Mm-hmm. And they're doing the sit-ups, and when they do the sit-ups, they come up and fucking shadow box. Rumble in the Bronx is fucking classic.
Fucking great one.
I think that's like the best. I think that's the best one to just like introduce people to Jackie Chan. It's the most like palatable.
So Rumble in the Bronx
simple
is a remake of one of his older first U.S. movies, like Rumble, or it's like Showdown in something. It's like a fight based in New York, where it's about like him and like the people in Chinatown fighting like New York.
City Hunter?
Not City Hunter. No, this is Showdown at Battle Creek or something that. Yeah. I think like Rumble in the Bronx
is just a very high dollar production of that. Yeah.
Man, my brothers and I used to love watching. We would watch Rumble in the Bronx like every chance we got, like as kids.
Yeah, I was trying to remember the name of this Michelle Yeoh movie that I really like.
You ever seen Jackie Chan's movie Beautiful?
Oh yes.
Yeah, great movie.
Yeah, that was really good.
Yeah.
But I'd say my favorite martial arts movie of all time is probably The Raid: Redemption.
Right.
Very very good movie. Pretty much the inspiration behind all the John Wick movies being made, I would say, and also has a really good sequel, The Raid 2. Just like blending gun martial arts and actual
knife fighting, machete defense,
machete, all that shit. And John Wick's obviously great, especially the combat in the third one. The last two fights in the third movie are incredible. Butterfly and Sword. This is a really good one with Michelle Yeoh. Michelle Yeoh, who has more recently been in Everything Everywhere All at Once. Like that's why a lot of American people are more familiar with her now. She was also in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Of course, one of the most famous martial arts movies ever. That movie's really fucking good. If people want a good laugh,
look up the Mad TV spoofs of Steven Seagal.
Yeah, I'll be hard pressed to recommend any Steven Seagal film. Truthfully, I don't think I've ever seen one that I really enjoyed. I do remember liking Half Past Dead.
Yeah,
but mainly because every time he's on screen wearing a do-rag,
it tickled me.
So fucking funny. Yeah, it's so funny. What's the movie Undisputed?
Undisputed.
Where that's really good.
Really good movie. Yeah. And then Undisputed led into some Michael Jai White spinoffs, which led into the Boyka movies. I can't believe they just never killed that franchise.
Yeah, I know a lot of people like Ip Man. I'm not crazy about him. I'm not crazy about him. I think they're just a little too fantastical.
They just put a lot of Donnie Yen movies, including Flashpoint, on Amazon Prime, and I was like, ooh, I gotta go back and watch Flashpoint. Have you seen that?
Yeah, really good.
Like, there were some, like, really dope, like, transitions. Like, it was a very stock, because he was like, I fucking love MMA. I want to shoot takedowns and go for triangles in this movie.
Yeah, yeah.
And, like, they do, like, a lot of, like, chain wrestling, and, like, you see a lot of, like, Chinese kickboxing takedowns.
Yeah, if you guys know of any movies that have, like, legit MMA in them, besides Bruised and Warrior and these movies that are
there's actually
MMA,
like quite a few like MMA movies coming out of like India.
Yeah,
like Japan.
Definitely. I've seen. Yeah. Oh my god, what is
there was a Japanese MMA movie I saw, and like it was a ridiculous like Karate Kid concept. Like this old man had a dude like punching like a fucking rug on the ceiling, and that got him ready for an MMA fight. But like they've had some like unique approaches.
Well, it's like in Never Back Down, where all he does is like do no gi rounds and hit the heavy bag, and he's fucking ready to go.
The heavy bag down this rail. Like it doesn't work that way. Like it doesn't work that way. Like,
yeah. Martial arts movies in general, I think, are kind of starting to come back, and I think that things like, I think the UFC taking the initiative to like re-inject themselves manually into the pop culture sphere is a good idea, because the UFC has always been built on stars, and when WME came in and tried to, they're trying to remarket everything. They're more about making the brand the star, and I think that this kind of thing is definitely the case, because like. I always think about Talladega Nights. How much legit NASCAR people are in that movie.
Yeah.
How many NASCAR legends are in that movie. The commentators are real NASCAR
the bar that they film at a bunch is a regular hangout. Like of
NASCAR drivers. The
people get into fights in Applebee's parking lots all the time.
And that Applebee's parking lot outside of the Bob Evans, where they shot that scene where he's yelling at his dad in the street, is about 2 streets over from my grandpa's
I remember, like, I remember I saw that, and I was like, this place looks familiar. Like, it's from Talladega Nights. Yeah. And I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
like,
Talladega Nights, a lot of it was shot around Kannapolis, North Carolina, because Dale Earnhardt is from there.
Oh, Fistfoot Way.
Yeah.
Shit. I just remember Fistfoot Way. I was like, filmed in Concord, North Carolina.
Yes. Yeah. Well, North Carolina, for those who don't know, has a great tax situation for filmmaking and the arts. So a lot of movies are shot here. The first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, 1991, was shot here. I believe.
Dale was in it, yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, that's true.
Dale Fry's been in like
put on that fucking rubber suit or that Foot Clan suit.
He's been in a bunch of movies with like Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah. Iron Man 3, largely shot here. I briefly met from afar Robert Downey Jr.
You yelled at him and threw your underwear.
I didn't yell at him. I was dating a girl.
He just yelled, "Fuck you!"
I was dating this girl who was a bartender at Lucky 32. Do you know? It's pretty well known in Cary anyway, as being like a pretty good Southern restaurant. And I worked in the corporate park that was right behind Lucky 32, which is how I met the girl in the first place. And she was like, "You should take your lunch hour here today." And this was like at 11:30. She knew my lunch was like coming up in 30 minutes. And I was like, "Why?" And she was like, "Because someone from Robert Downey Jr.'s team just came in and asked if he could eat lunch here." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I went, I sat at the bar, ate my lunch, and I could see him plain as day. And he had like 90 people with him. And he, you couldn't get anywhere near him. But I remember just like walking past him on the way out and giving him the nod and getting the nod back, and that's all I needed.
Rewind years ago, and you're trying to run past, like you're punching his assistant. Get the fuck out of my way! I have to touch him. It's Iron Man! Like you're being dragged away. I love you, Robert. Like I want to murder you. I love you so much, and you're getting dragged away.
Let me wear your hair.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that John Wick 4 is coming up, and it's gonna be the most action-y one yet, they say. They say that there's like over an hour of just fight scenes in this one, so it should be pretty crazy. But that's it, guys. We went a little long today just talking about movies. We got to get Trevor over to the gym so we can get ready to teach some classes. But if you guys have a favorite martial arts movie that you want to let us know about it, maybe we haven't seen it, maybe we could watch it and check it out and do another video like we did with the Bruised video.
Shit. Not so much a martial arts movie, but still a little bit.
Yeah. Anything gritty like that where there's good choreography of the action to me, blurs the line between a martial arts movie.
Marked for death.
Oh, I'm going to give you one last recommendation for everybody here. We're talking so much about Chinese films, I have to talk about my favorite Chinese film of all time. Not even a martial arts movie, 2017's Shadow. So good. Very, very good movie about a fantasy version of feudal dynasty China. It's like the Black Dynasty versus the White Dynasty. Everything is shot with very like contrasting dark colors, very artistic looking. There's a scene where a bunch of guys turn into Beyblades and fucking go downhill, shredding ass, swords flying every direction. It's just an insane movie. If you like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, stuff like that, where there's just like magical kung fu shit going on.
Yeah, like they tend to like actually really make you believe in magic over there. Like in the U.S., it's like it's magical. Damn,
it's that Eastern mysticism.
Yeah.
Yeah, that Eastern mysticism, I ain't gotta explain shit type karate that I really like sometimes, even as somebody who
like,
trains in the real shit.
Works. Yeah.
Yeah, the more you train real martial arts and you realize how not magical it is, the more you kind of want a little bit of magic in your life.
Magic,
All right, guys, so we'll see you next week. We'll be talking about Rob and Jan and all things fighting once again on the 10-8 Fightcast. Until then, enjoy yourselves and the fight.